Well, it's up to a 70% stock market crash is coming soon, too. I don't know if it's going to be tomorrow or next week, but it's going to be before the end of the year. I almost think it's right around the corner. You're seeing a little life in the metals, but where we're going to really see the metals take off better, probably, especially the gold, is if you see the equities drop like crazy. There's always kind of an inverse relationship between gold and the equities, kind of. Not in the long term, it is. It is. Now, there's people are calling between a 30 and 60%, but there's some people saying up to a 70% drop in the equities. And it does make sense, not from the conspiratorial drama side, but the fact that we're seeing so much rise in the equities, and I know they're trying to make the numbers look like this, and they say now the durable goods, it skyrocketed by another 22%. That's good for the economy. But there's other things where the PMI dropped a few months ago. The Chicago PMI. It dropped the biggest drop in a short period of time since like 2008 or 2009, and it was the lowest point it was since 2013. That's an ominous sign, but you know what I'm looking at too, and I have to repeat this fact again, is that this is the second longest now bull run we've had in equities history in the last 120 years, and on top of that, we've been experiencing more small businesses going out of business than going into business since the bottom of the last economic crisis, I guess you would call it, in 2008 or 2009. But the first time in many years, like in other words, if we were coming out of the slump, more and more small businesses would be going into business than going out of business. And actually, there's more and more small businesses going out of business than going into business, and that gap is actually widening each year since the last economic crash. So let me put it to you this way. You got to look at those common sense things. So what's holding up the markets? I'm going to tell you right now, I think it's been the Fed. All right? The Fed with the QE. And all that money's got to be invested someplace. It's going someplace. When they're doing the bond buybacks and all that, it's got to go someplace. There's a lot of money being flush in the big corporations, the big banks. It's got to go someplace. And, you know, the big signs I've always said was George Soros. You know, people don't like him, but he was short. I have to say it again because I got new users, new viewers. George Soros did a huge bearish bet back in August 2013, a year ago. He doubled down on it early 2014, and then he added greatly to his position again in the last several weeks. So either he's going to lose his... See, that's like not just hedging the position. That's more like the position, or a main part of the position at least. It's a little more than just a hedge. So it's coming up. And what's going to actually... I hate to say this, but this is the fact, man. Because nobody wanted to believe it back. I don't like saying this stuff, but you know, you could. If people were ready for it back in the 20s, they wouldn't have had the problems back in the 30s because people didn't believe it. You know, that's the other thing. But we got some problems coming up, and you know, I don't want people. Well, it's good to spend your time on the internet to learn how to do something that can help you survive or save you some money or things like that, but to be addicted to all the world's problems on the internet, it's just a waste of time. It really is. So in a way, I'm putting out this video. I don't want to put too many of these kind of videos out like this. I want to give more constructive things. Like I did put one out about fluoride and consciousness just recently, but I also showed the remedy for it. But I wanted people to be aware of it again, you know? But I showed the remedy for it, which was boron is partly the remedy. The supplement. But gold could easily go, and I'm the major media. Some of the analysts in the major media are saying is, if the market corrects like 30 to 60%, some are saying up to 70%. I don't know about 70%, but say 50%, right? That's a lot. You'll see gold go up to 3,000, no problem. I mean, not immediately, but it'll start getting a lot of life. Now, I know Jim Rogers talks about, yeah, well, it's unusual for an asset to go up 10 years in a row like gold was going, and then it finally pulled back, and it's unusual for it to have a 50% correction, which it didn't really have, or didn't really have. It didn't have a 50% correction because it never got solidly below 1,000. You know, it could when the markets pull back, it could very briefly. It could. You know, that's another thing, too. And, you know, maybe he'll be right, but that's not going to be what's going to be happening as a trend. It'll be short-lived then. Because if the equities crash like that, yeah, the metals could crash like that. Now, the scenario is, too, there's other scenarios out there. I don't know what's going on. Nobody knows what's going on in the Middle East. That situation could blow up at any time, and it could send the metals through the roof and oil and the markets down. That could be the catalyst for brings the markets down. But the market doesn't need a catalyst to bring it down. It's already way too pricey. They've been saying this for a long time. Now, the inverse is going to be true later on with gold and silver, but nobody's going to listen then. Just like people aren't listening right now, for the most part, that gold and silver is a very good deal. You know, because they know, oh, look how bad it was the last 3 years. You know, several years from now, maybe they'll be saying, wow, look how great it's been for the last few years, and they're going to be buying it at the high. There you go. So, anyway, the market correction, when it happens, is going to crash fast. And that's when, you know, maybe the metals will, depends on why the markets go down. If they just happen to go down due to, like, you know, there's no real reason, it just was too high and it finally came down on its own without a specific, valid catalyst reason, then I expect the metals to drop too. If they go down because of a terrorist attack and it's involving oil in the Middle East and uncertainties, then you can see the markets go down and oil and gold and silver start going up fast. If the markets go down because of what's coming up on the next budget, you know, they got to iron out the next budget for October, and you remember what happened last year. It looked like for that they weren't going to iron out the budget, right? Well, if they have to iron out the budget this year and it's a problem, well, it could be that the markets in oil go down and gold will go up, especially more than silver initially. So there's like 3 different scenarios where the markets could go down and what it will do to the metals and oil. But it's going to be one of those 3 coming up. And when it does, it's going to happen fast. And on the same side, when the metals start going way up, and, you know, it's a good, you know, it depends on how fast the metals go up, depending on if I sell some initially here or not. If there's a war in the Middle East and it goes up very, very fast, and it gets ahead of itself too quick, you know, I think it's going to come back down and then take a charge back up again. If it does a more of a steady rise and it's like not doing much, I'm not going to sell any of them until later. But anyway, Jim Rogers, you know, a lot of people like Jim Rogers and hate George Soros, you know, and I'm thinking, well, they're the same animal basically, you know. You know, someday Jim Rogers had his daughters learn how to speak Mandarin. Well, maybe they could be rice paddy farmers and work out there in the hot sun and do that stuff. You know what I mean? He wants everybody else to do it, but not him, right? And, you know, I don't like these international investment clowns out there that just go around and, you know, everybody, some people naively think they're trying to help the planet out, but they're not. You know, the kind of people that are investors that help the planet out would have been, I know, like Henry Ford has had some bad sides to him, but in general, when you got an investor like that puts a product to market that everybody likes and needs, and he puts it out in a more efficient way, that's an investor that helps everybody. Well, when you got somebody that just invests for invest, and, you know, somebody over here crashes and I'll buy that stuff up cheap and resell it for high, they're not helping anybody. They're just leeches. There's 2 types of investors, you know what I'm talking about? And I think both Soros and Rogers are the leech type, amongst others, like Buffett and everybody else. But, you know, its image. You know, they're like, oh, they're providing capital in the United States. Yeah. Sure they are. Sure they are. What the hell did they ever invent? You know, if Tesla, you know, Nikola Tesla was besides an inventor, was an actual good businessman, which he wasn't, and he invested in America and reinvested capital in America from proceeds from inventions that he actually made. Well, that would be the ideal investor. But most of these investors today are just blood-sucking leeches. That's why the one basis point is all connected to the banking and financial system. They don't really produce nothing. They're garbage. Anyway, over now, I'm going to be doing a video here pretty soon on paintless dent repair and PDR glue pull with the stuff I got yesterday. And hopefully it comes out pretty good. I'm going to test it out here in a few minutes, actually, and see how it works out. And, you know, get on with more hands-on stuff, because when we go to we probably are going to a Great Depression type environment with major conflict. I hate to say it, but we're probably having a repeat from the 30s, and you're thinking nothing's going to happen. Here's my cat jumping around on the copier machine. That's the noise you hear, clunk, clunk, idiot. Anyway, but you know, we're probably going into the same deal as we did back in the 30s, and everybody was like hopeful and saying, oh yeah, nothing's going to happen. Yeah, sure. Anyway, we're probably going from bad to worst. I don't want to play doom and gloom. I'm playing reality here. And listening to, I want to point this out at the end here. This Karen Huds, she's a load of it. I'm already figuring out, because they got a constitutional convention, or a new constitution already in the works, looking for a freaking problem. And she's actually calling for this, and she's saying that the Constitution has already been null and void since, you know, Abraham Lincoln. And yeah, right. You know where that lady came from, right? You know what I mean? But all the giddy minds are getting behind this bullshit. You know, this is the only country in the world that we actually have the tools to fix things. You know what the problem is? We got a bunch of dumbed down, weasel-type males that don't want to do the job anymore. That's 99% of the problem. You know? Or they automatically get, what's God's will? Well, it ain't God's will. You make it happen, damn it. You know, I don't want to get into that shit, but you know what I'm talking about. There's loads of people like that. They find a cop-out reason to religion. A lot of times not to do nothing. That's another thing. And of the people who are actually figuring this stuff out, they're spending like 10 hours a day looking for giddy rumors on bullshit. And I'm like, get out there and freaking learn something with tools and hands-on. Because the giddy rumors ain't going to do you nothing. No good at all. None at all. None at all. But it is reality. Not doom and gloom bullshit BS. It is reality that we're heading up to a stock market crash pretty soon. You know, and it's like, you know, it's going to happen, it's going to happen. And until it happens, nobody's going to believe it. But when it happens, it comes down so fast. And this is all history. It's all throughout history. The PE ratios are all screwed up. They've been telling you the stocks are pricey. There's nothing underlying in the economy except major media BS that it's actually holding up the economy. There's too much government regulation, killing small business. No way in hell these stocks are going to stay up. It's a reality. It's not doom and gloom. So, anyway, hopefully get on to more practical things here. Over now.